If anyone in the chat can hear me, we're having some technical difficulties. I'm working on them right now, and hopefully we'll have the sound back soon.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
But no sound. Muted. Does that mean you can hear me?
Huh. How about me? Let's see if I can hear it. Hold on one second. Let's see. A dream is a wish. Oh, look at my hair.
Yeah.
All right. So we're back then. All right. So
check. We get confirmation you can hear Len and Steve and Guy.
Yay. All right. So Steve, you got there around 7 a.m. at the Booking parking lot. We both drove. And what did they tell you? They told you the parking lot was going to open at 8. Right. But it did not open at 8. It opened at 7:30.
Right.
Okay. And how many? So you got there at 7. There was one car ahead of you?
So at that time, they had one person in the toll booth telling people, come back at 8 o'clock.
Okay. All right.
I said, okay. All
I
right,
think
I'll
I'll take
go.
my chances here. Yeah.
Yeah. But there really wasn't anywhere to stay, so I was like, okay, I'll go check out the new McDonald's. It doesn't open till 8 o'clock, so that was kind of a bust.
McDonald's opens at 8.
Yeah, the one on property.
That's
So
horrible. Okay.
that's horrible. So I said, I still had time to kill, so I went out, took Shelford. No, what's the road that the Animal Kingdom?
Sherbeth
Sherbeth.
over to 192. Yeah.
Yeah, I went to 192. Got my sandwich over there. Came back.
Yeah. It's actually not a bad McDonald's over there. Yeah. So I got there at 7:30. There were about 4 cars ahead of me in my lane of the toll booth. They opened everything up at 8:30. I was through it by like 8:30 or 7:32. And then I paid for preferred parking, so because I didn't want to walk, and it was like the second car in preferred parking, row number 2.
And you were like, got to park 20 feet closer than I did. Hope you enjoyed that.
I know, and it was. I mean, the 20 feet was just amazing. So,
yeah.
But you managed to get into the park before me.
Right, because I was actually the first one in the toll booth, so you were 3 cars behind me.
3 cars behind. All right, I will say this: the security process, the screening process, the Animal Kingdom, they're using the new security stations that were just being built back in March, and this went so well. I really like how they're doing security screening in Animal Kingdom. Again, we're now 5 days into this whole thing, right? So all the kinks have sort of started to become ironed out. But for me, the security process.
There's 2 things going on with the Animal Kingdom security. They were testing at Disney Springs a couple weeks ago this new technology.
Right.
So they've got these new intelligent screeners.
Yep.
So they were in the new building, but they were also using new technology. The new technology, which made it really nice.
So we got temperature screened, and we passed. And then we went through the regular security screening, which for me was a regular metal detector. Hold your stuff out, like your Frankenstein again. We talked about this yesterday. But so I went through the regular screening there, and it was fantastic.
Mine was better. They said keep everything in your pockets. If you have an umbrella, take it out.
So did you? I got the umbrella thing too. Which side? So we went on the right side of the security checkpoint. Which side did you go in?
I was middle left. Everybody was going to the first tent. I walked to the next one.
Okay, so I wonder if they must be testing different things out there.
Yeah,
and then it was fine. And then once you got in the park, it was tap your magic band, but no biometrics, and then we were in.
Yep.
Okay, cool. And our purpose for being in the park together today, other than to see each other, to connect emotionally, was to test a touring plan. So we were testing our standard 1-day touring plan for adults for the Animal Kingdom. And the twist on this one was you were going to do Flight of Passage first, and I was going to do it last. So when I optimized my touring plan, it had me going to Flight of Passage last, and you decided to do the exact opposite of that, right? So you went on Flight of Passage first.
I used our old recommendation of when times were normal.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Vaguely.
So I went to Flight of Passage, got there probably about 8:40, 8:45 probably. By the time we met.
7:45, not 8:45.
7:45, that's right. All a blur. When I got to the queue, I heard a cast member say the ride wasn't going to start until 7:55.
Yep.
So I ended up waiting 24 minutes, but half of that was because the ride wasn't started yet.
Right. So the park opens at 8, but for Disney's purposes, 8 o'clock is actually 7:55 a.m. Right. Because my first step was Navi River Journey, and we were the second family on Navi River Journey, and again, it opened at 7:55 as well. Yeah.
So in the before times, they had Flight of Passage running an hour before the park opened.
Right. And not now.
Not now.
And I don't think they need to. So how long did you wait in line for Flight of Passage?
So I actually got to ride Flight of Passage 3 times.
Woo!
So my longest wait was the 24 minutes out of all my rides. And again, that was waiting for the park to open and then wait for the people that were ahead of me to get on. So I think everybody would be happy with 24 minutes. I thought it was pretty great until I rode it with a 4-minute wait and a 6-minute wait later in the day.
Yeah, so that's why I didn't ride it first. I rode Navi River Journey. It was a walk-on. And then my second step was Dinosaur. So we walked Pandora to Dinoland. It was a literal walk-on. We did not stop walking the entire time from the time we entered the queue until I didn't stop walking until I got to my seat on the Dinosaur ride. There's actually a ride vehicle just waiting for us with nobody else in it. And so we rode that. What was your second ride?
So my plan pretty much took me in a clockwise around Animal Kingdom. So I did the Savannah, Safari Savannah.
Oh, and how long was that? How long was the wait for that?
I brought that up so I would have it right in front of me. So I waited, and it was another long wait of 14 minutes, which included, they made an announcement that there was a delay in vehicles, animal on the, it was too early for a cleaning.
Yep.
So I was at Kilimanjaro Safari at 8:30.
Okay.
And they had like a 5-minute delay, but it only took me 14 minutes with that 5-minute delay.
Okay, so you waited how long for Flight of Passage?
Technically 24 minutes.
24, and then 14 for
Safari.
Kilimanjaro Safaris. So that's 38 minutes total.
Yeah.
Okay. In those two rides, you waited more than I waited all day following the touring plan. That was it right there. It was over. All right. So I did Dinosaur. Literally no wait. Walked on. Next ride was Everest. And again, literally walked on. In fact, I walked on to the point where I was still like trying to record the wait time in my phone. And I walked through the gates and onto the ride and stood there. And the cast member came up and like, "You're the only one on this train. We're waiting for you to sit down so we can send the train along." Yeah, so no wait at all at Everest. Saw some TouringPlans people, some TouringPlans friends who were coming or in the ride behind us. Were sort of like mixing up in the queue. The one thing I did notice for Everest was they were using every part of the queue. Like we went through every switchback on it, and it was great because I got to see parts of the queue that I haven't seen in years.
I did the same thing, going like rides that I only ride Fast Pass now, unless I'm timing them for TouringPlans.
Exactly.
Yeah, there were things. You know, Safari was the same way. There was queue I'd never seen before or hadn't seen in 20 years.
That's fantastic. And then, so what did you do after Safaris?
So then it was Kali River Rapids, which was a walk-on. Then Everest.
Wait, so Kali was my attraction after Everest, and it was a walk-on too. Did you actually ride it?
Yes.
Did you get wet?
Yes.
Did you really?
Yeah, I was the wettest person out of. So there was 3 parties. I thought I was going to get my own boat, but there's some people that were, I guess, were following me that got onto my boat. So they basically have alternating. So they have seats that are pairs. So there's 12 seats in there, pairs of 6 pairs.
Yeah.
So they're making one pair between each person empty. So we had a full boat of 5 people.
Wow. So when I went on it, it was only Christina and I on it. Laurel decided to not to get wet, so she filmed us from the bridge. But when you went up the load ramp, did you notice that they were not running the giant fountain of water that just soaks everyone's? Was that running when you were on it?
No, it was not.
Okay, me too. So I think they're trying to make the ride a little bit drier, and that felt good because I was actually wearing a poncho. By the way, guys, with the heat index today, it was 104, not exaggerating, in the shade in Central Florida today. I decided to wear a poncho on a water ride. I was sweat. I probably should not have worn a poncho.
More wet
I was and I smelled. I mean, I could have smelled myself already at 8 o'clock in the morning or whatever. But I think they've toned down the water cannon effects on Kali River Rapids because I didn't get wet at all, other than the sweat. I did say they also had the entire queue open there too, and that was great to walk through. Especially like the last half of it is air conditioned, and so that was really nice.
Yeah, I did notice about that time that there's not a lot of things right now at Animal Kingdom with air conditioning.
Yeah, it was warm today.
It was still pretty early in the morning. It's like, geez, I wish the Lion King show was open or Nemo was open. Those are some nice air conditioned breaks.
It was humid this morning too, and until the humidity burned off and the actual heat began, it was stifling in there. I mean, once you get through to about noon, then it's just pure heat, but there's no humidity. But first part of the day is tough, man. So
Speaking
after
of the heat, somebody in the chat was saying that they heard the airflow on the safaris was a lot worse because of the plexiglass barriers. So I was wondering if you could speak on that for a second.
that was my next ride, and here's something interesting. So there are plexiglass barriers now between every row on Kilimanjaro safaris. Interestingly, masks are optional on Kilimanjaro safaris now. So we asked a couple of.
You asked because I actually heard an announcement to wear masks, but that was the recorded message.
Right, that was the message. So because there are plexiglass or plastic dividers, masks are optional. I wore my mask the entire time, but we were confused because we heard the same mask announcement that you did, but then cast members said that they were optional. Everyone kept theirs on, which was good. I said we happened to sit up front, so I didn't notice any difference in airflow. Where did you sit, Steve?
I was closer to the back, so I was between two pretty close partitions, and there definitely was less airflow.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I think it's the best option they have.
Yeah, I think so too. And they were trying to keep the ride fairly full. I think the fact that they're running the rides closer to capacity kept the wait time down, because by the time we got there, which was, I'm guessing, around 9:30 or 9:15 or so, 9:30. No wait. We walked almost all the way. We walked to the point where the cast member asked us how many people were in our party, and then they directed us to the next truck. So we had to wait for one truck to finish loading until we boarded. But that was really straightforward. And then at that point, we had done every major ride, and the only thing we had left was Flight of Passage. And at that point, I think you and I talked, and we decided to start adding things to the touring plan. So we added It's Tough to Be a Bug and Up. So, Guy, this is interesting. Up was not the Great Bird Adventure was not listed on the times guide as operating today, but it did run, and it ran at times different than the cast members were telling us. So if you go to guest relations, they'll say it's running every hour. It's not running every hour. For shows at 10:30. And did you see Up, Steve?
I did. I went to the first show with. Well, I guess they did it yesterday. So, did they do show yesterday? They sure acted excited that humans were back in this theater.
It was I think the show name is going to change because it's no longer Up characters on the show, and that could be because of the equity agreement that's not yet in place for Disney characters. This was just trainers and birds, and I got to say, of all the different iterations of this show, this is the one I like the best. New show, it's all about the birds and their behaviors. I thought it was fantastic. They really focused on how they train the birds and what the birds can do. And also there were a couple of really interesting moments where the birds, I think, were not completely trained.
Yeah, well, they forgot or they haven't been performing like they used to.
Yeah. So it was the first week back for the birds as well. So what happened on your show when you saw them? Because now I'm going to figure out what is staged and what's
right. It's kind of hard sometimes to tell that.
Okay.
The first thing that was kind of funny, this definitely was staged, but then it kind of became funny. So they do a little pre-show where a trainer is putting out rewards up on beams across the top.
Yep.
And they have a chicken that interacts with them and changes the radio station.
Right.
But what was funny to me was during the show, there were some like cardinals, not part of the show, come and steal the food that the guy put up on those beams.
The birds aren't dumb.
So they have trained some native species there to participate in the show. So the small hornbill that was fly through the hoop.
Yeah.
It took them forever to get that bird to cooperate. They almost canned that act.
The same thing for us too.
The off stage ones. When the trainers had to go get them.
So that happened on my show too. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder if it just happened twice, or if that's actually they've trained the bird to look like the bird isn't trained.
Yeah.
Now I have to go see it a third time.
Right. Yeah.
It sounded very real. It sounded very unscripted. So if they've actually got the bird to do that, that's a very good piece of stagecraft.
So and then the other one that seemed staged was the crown. The crown.
Another bird.
Yeah, another bird with crown, with a golden crown.
Yeah.
The act was that the guy was new working with this crane.
Oh, right, and he had to put on the hat. He had to put on the hat with the same hair. Yeah, that's definitely staged. Yeah,
that was definitely staged.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, everything else seemed pretty staged. That bird not cooperating and them getting a little frustrated felt real to me.
That felt real to me too, and I wonder, because it was the same bird, I wonder if it was just the same thing. But I did notice that the show was much faster paced than it was, which was my criticism of the last version of the show. And also, tons of birds, right? Could not be more bird centric if it tried. So, I like I said, I like this version of the show more than I like previous versions of the show. If they keep it exactly like this, I think it would be an improvement.
Yeah.
Cool. And then we saw It's Tough to Be a Bug, which was a walk-on. And the interesting thing here is they were actually using the entire extended queue for It's Tough to Be a Bug, which hasn't been used, I believe, since the Clinton administration. So,
and at 5 o'clock this evening,
yeah,
they still had the entire queue open.
Oh, right.
I didn't think I was ever going to get to the theater.
it's Steve in the Wilderness. Yeah. And then after that, we'd gone through everything. I didn't go to Conservation Station. I didn't go to Rafiki's Planet Watch because didn't feel like doing it. It's not great. It's not on the regular plan anymore. It's not very highly rated. But for us after that, it was just the nature trails. So we had a long lunch at Satuli Canteen, which was delicious. We did the mobile ordering in advance, even though it was and I think we did it like at 11:30 or so. What time did we eat? Do you remember? 11:30 or so. It was fine. We got to sit inside in the air conditioning, but even sitting outdoors, it would have been fine. Everybody was socially distant. Food was delicious as always. And then we just started taking breaks throughout the day. We had Dole Whip in Africa. Took a break at Gatsoda's and a Hot Pretzel in Harambe, and took a break over at Dawa Bar. So I mean, just really sort of relaxed the day. And still, we were done by 3 o'clock. Done with everything, every single thing on the plan by 3 o'clock.
Yeah. So after the bird show,
go ahead. I'll talk about my Flight of Passage thing last. Go ahead.
So that was 11 o'clock for me. So I had finished everything except Navi River Journey.
Okay.
But I needed to change hotels, so we put a 2-hour break in there so I could leave. But before I left, I noticed that the Lines app was saying 2 minutes. That TouringPlans was predicting 2 minutes for Flight of Passage.
Right. And you decided to test that theory.
I tested that because that looked kind of odd. That if that's really possible, let's see. And
now you know how Guy feels all day.
Yeah. So before somebody complains saying that, how can you predict 2 minutes?
Yeah.
Well, the pre-show is longer than 2 minutes, so we really could. 2 minutes is too low, but it was 6 minutes.
The pre-show. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But getting to the pre-show, I think, would probably count as entertainment. So.
Right. So after that,
the thing I liked about Flight of Passage is once you get inside the building itself, once you start getting the caves, it's all air conditioned from that point forward, and it's a long walk. They're using the entire queue again, but that's a long walk through air conditioning, so I didn't mind one bit through it all.
Yeah, like I said, if crowds stay like this, you should wait the afternoon to the air conditioned queues and rides, because order almost doesn't matter.
Well, it kind of did because you waited.
Yeah,
34 minutes for
things. You did better than I did.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let me ask you this question: You left and came back. Were the trams running in the parking lot?
Trams are not running.
Trams are not running. That's what I thought. Wanted to make sure. Okay, cool. And the other thing is did you notice the outdoor smoking areas? Were they running?
Is that the benches? I think I saw somebody smoking, but I don't know if that was an official spot.
It's outside the park, and it's interesting because COVID is a respiratory disease, and so you would think that smokers would be less inclined to be in the parks. Right now, I haven't seen anyone smoking yet anywhere in the Magic Kingdom or the Animal Kingdom. but you saw that the smoking areas were still there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure when I returned, I saw somebody sitting on those benches close to preferred parking. That road that takes you to preferred parking.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's where it is. All right.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
I did see somebody there.
Good.
The other thing I noticed when I returned, there were more cast member cars in the parking lot than guest cars.
Yeah. So two things. One, it was super, super hot today. Like I think just as hot as it was yesterday. Also, it was supposed to rain in the afternoon, and it didn't. At least not while we were there. So I wonder if people looked at the clouds and thought, well, we might as well get out of here. We've seen most of the stuff for the day. But you could, when we left at 3, there was no one coming in, and I turned to Laurel and I said, you could probably see half the park in the 3 hours that the park is still open, right? You could still run through everything.
Yeah. So when you guys left, we actually ran into each other when I was returning back.
Right.
At 3.
You were going back into floating passage.
And even when I was coming in, I'm like, everybody's leaving. Nobody's coming in with me.
Yeah. There was literally no one coming into the park. Yeah. Which was really.
So I stayed until 5:30, and at some points in the park, I felt like I saw more cast members than guests.
I definitely felt that as well too.
I mean, so yeah, when I got back at 3, everything was a walk-on. I could.
Yeah.
I almost thought about asking if I could ride Everest twice just to see their response, but I moved on. So
there's only that one little section of the track where they unload the load area. That's interesting. I wonder if they would have done it.
Yeah, or at least let me cut through.
I did see your TouringPlans subscribers with the black lab, by the way, and I stopped and said hi to them. Yeah, that was great. Yeah, they were really nice. We saw them in Africa. Let's pause for a second, and then Guy, do we have any questions so far?
Yeah. We got a question about the smoking areas, if there were any changes you noticed at Animal Kingdom or Magic Kingdom.
I didn't notice any changes at Animal Kingdom, and I didn't check them at Magic Kingdom. Next time we go back, which will be later on this week, we'll do that.
Now they're only outside the park, right?
Yeah, they're only outside the park, yeah. Cool.
We also got a question, do we think the crowds will get bigger, or do you think we'll stay the same size for a while?
That's a great question. I haven't really seen what the reaction has been to all of the press coverage around the opening. So yesterday it was all over CNN, all over, all of the TV outlets. During the week, I wouldn't expect as many people to be in the parks, only because people have to go to work, right? I think Wednesday will be interesting for Epcot because it's the first day of Flower and Wine. And then next weekend, with all the parks open, it'll be slightly different because there'll be 4 parks for people to go to, and I'm not sure if we're gonna have 4 parks worth of crowds. So the next weekend will be the key. I think during this week it's not gonna be very busy at all. I think it'll even be less busy at Universal now that Disney's open. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, and if you remember, Disney wasn't selling hotel rooms. You couldn't book this first week.
Or tickets.
Tickets. So unless you happen to have something booked several months ago.
Yeah.
And, traveling and everything else is so up in the air. I'm sure a lot of people don't have the privilege of driving or just being able to decide to go. So it probably is mostly locals.
Yeah.
So I think the weekends should be more crowded than the weekdays.
Yeah. Universal was crowded this weekend. It was a legit 6 on our scale.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I assume the number of park reservations Disney is distributing now,
right,
is the same. And
I think they started off. I think they started off relatively low. I never felt crowded at any point in the Animal Kingdom today. Not even once. Yeah.
No, I kept saying, this park could handle more people.
That's exactly what I said too. In fact, I talked to a number of guests who are TouringPlans subscribers who are actually in the park too, and we all sort of felt like, this was good. It was almost to the point where we needed a few more guests in the park to make the place feel more alive, if you will. But again, Disney's starting off with a low bar, and they wanted to make sure everything ran correctly. I think in general, this weekend was a qualified success, right? Other than the sort of the snafu out in front of the Magic Kingdom yesterday, and they've got to fix some things around like where the exterior lines go at It's a Small World. I think overall it ran pretty well this weekend, certainly as well as could be expected when you're talking about 28,000 square acres of operations, right? It ran pretty well. They did a really good job overall. And yeah, to your point, they could probably let more people in and it'd be okay. So we'll see.
And we're keeping track of the number of what's available for park pass reservations.
Yeah.
So we should be able to tell if Disney opens up more spots.
Yeah. The thing they might do, so I know that there are some days where the number of reservations allocated to hotel guests and to guests with dated tickets, they're not hitting those capacities. But annual pass holders are already at capacity. I think they should take some of that extra capacity and give it to AP holders. Like, why wouldn't you?
Right. And that's why I was wondering, like, day of, will they switch that over to AP?
Well,
but again, that doesn't
give
help
AP
people that are
holders
traveling.
Yeah, I mean, if you're coming from Miami, you need a little bit more of a head start than 24 hours. I'd like to see maybe 3 days out, sort of.
Yeah.
Cap those things.
I mean,
well, a week might be too much because you can make a last minute. You can buy tickets now, dated tickets.
Yeah.
So a week might be too much, but yeah, last couple of days. Because if you're an annual pass holder and let's say it's a Tuesday and they tell you, hey, on Friday you can come in now if you want. I would make that reservation and you can make those arrangements, right? That would make sense. The other interesting thing I heard was that if you're an annual pass holder and you're blocked out, this is Disney's new policy, and I think this is only going to last for like 5 minutes, so don't read too much into it. If you're an annual pass holder and you want to get in, even though the annual pass holders have hit their capacity, what Disney's telling you to do is buy a 1-day dated ticket, and they'll apply that amount to your annual pass, like the next annual pass when you renew, and they'll let you in the park. And that seems like to me like it's not their corporate policy, but that's how the computer system works. Like that seems to be a policy that's based on whoever programmed the computer, not what anyone would actually design in real life, right?
Well, or they added that hack because I'm weird and I've got a lot of tickets assigned to me.
Yeah.
Because I'm a hoarder. So
you still have non-expiring tickets, right?
I still have non-expiring tickets that haven't been used up yet. Wow. I've got a 5-day ticket that hasn't expired that's linked to me and my annual pass. So I basically fell into all three buckets of I had a September reservation, I had an AP, and I had a 5-day ticket.
Right.
And when I initially made when it opened, I could only make reservations in September, which made sense.
Mm-hmm.
Then I ran into the problem when I went to make my reservations for this weekend, was that was actually conflicting with it, even though I had an AP.
You hit your quota? Yeah.
My quota from September. So I had actually canceled those reservations. I figured September's a long way away. Who knows what this country will look like in September. So I picked my reservations for this weekend. So that's another reason I'm not going to the park until Wednesday, because that was my third reservation.
Okay.
So
we'll have people in the studios tomorrow.
Right.
For the first preview day. Okay, cool. Where'd you eat lunch today? Did you eat offsite or onsite?
I ate offsite. It still took a long time at the pool bar. I'm at the Wyndham at Disney Springs.
Oh, what's the that's the one that's closest to Disney Springs, right? Right on the corner.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. What's the resort fee? Because I think the room rate was pretty cheap, right?
Yeah, and they actually cut the resort fee in half because not everything's available, so it's $13 or something. It's
that's reasonable.
Yeah. They're still charging $20 for parking, but I guess Disney's charging for parking too now, so I can't complain about that.
Let's pause real quick. Guy, any questions so far?
Yeah, just wondering what you guys miss the most about the parks.
Yeah, so I would say I like the feeling of the parks at night. The lighting's great.
Yeah.
Nighttime entertainment. The less heat.
The less heat. The less heat's a thing. Yeah.
But certainly with the crowds today, taking a 3-hour break, I had plenty of time, even with the park closing at 6 o'clock.
Wow.
But in the summer, when you had parks staying up till midnight or 2 o'clock.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the one thing that I miss too. So the extended hours, not necessarily the night, but It'd be great if the parks were open long enough to be able to take a break from like 11 to 3, 11 to 4, and still come back and do everything. Because just use one, it's really, really hot. And, I could use a change of clothes and maybe a quick dip in the pool and a nice lunch, maybe a nap. I'm just saying, it's the weekend. That'd be really nice. Also, I haven't seen the castle at night with the new paint scheme on it. And I'm telling you guys, you're going to see the castle, and your first question is going to be, is that blue or is that purple? And I don't know. So I'd like to see the castle at night to sort of figure out what's going on there.
Yeah, one thing I was thinking Disney could actually do is actually have 2 shifts. You actually had that idea early on.
Right. Just a sort of staggered time entry.
Well,
right?
they could actually have 2 6-hour days. You have it AM. Yeah. You could, and then people could park hop. They could have a morning shift at one park and an evening shift
right.
at another park.
So you could do like, let's say they open the parks at 8. You could go 8 to 3 in one park, and then 3 to 10 in another park, or 4 to 11 or whatever. Yeah. Did you notice anything unusual about the cleaning procedures? On the rides?
So when I rode Dinosaur, it ended like right at 10 o'clock, and the car we were in was kind of waiting for a while because they were actually cleaning the vehicle ahead of us.
Okay.
So when ours pulled up, they didn't. So I'm thinking that was one of the first cars being cleaned because of the delay. So I think they're running all the cars through being cleaned one cycle. So of course I asked. They don't have to tell me the answer, but they said they were doing it every 2 hours.
Every 2 hours. So I heard the same thing. So I think they're at the Magic Kingdom, they were cleaning things a little bit more often than that. Like Splash, they were cleaning at least every hour, and I think actually more often than that. But I think 2 hours is sort of like the maximum length of time that they can go between cleaning anything.
I was trying to figure out how many cycles of the ride it has in 2 hours that the same vehicle goes through.
Well, it depends on how many vehicles they're running too. I don't think they were running the ride at full capacity, obviously. Yeah. But again, hand sanitizers
we've had a couple questions about characters in Animal Kingdom, about being on the barges. Do we think they will continue to do that? Are there any other sort of character moments or anything of that sort?
The barges were the only thing that I saw. So I saw Mickey, Minnie, Pluto, and Pluto on one, Pocahontas and whatever the characters from Pocahontas were on another, Chip, Dale, and somebody else on, I think it was Goofy, actually. Yes, Chip, Dale, and Goofy on another one. And so here's a tip, actually. If you're going to the Animal Kingdom, the place to see all of these barges, like as up close as possible, is the walkway between Pandora and Festival of the Lion King. There's that bridge that you pass under. That's the border between Pandora and Africa. If you stand under that bridge, number one, it's shaded. Number two, you can pick up a drink right by the little Harambe Market. So grab a drink. Walk over underneath that bridge, and those boats pass as close to you as they possibly can right there, and you get as close to the characters as any encounter that you're going to see right there. That's a great place to view all of the barges. I do think it'll continue because number one, it doesn't break up traffic in the park. They're not going to run Jim and Jungle Parade ever again. Number two, they're running them every 15 or 20 minutes, it seemed like, right?
So I only saw 2 barges, but of course I left in that chunk in the middle of the day. I don't think they were running them this afternoon.
I don't think they start till 10:15 or so.
So when I was going from Everest to Dinosaur, I saw the first barge with Mickey and Minnie and Pluto, going under that bridge, basically into the theater of the nighttime show.
Okay, so under the bridge from Africa into the
no, coming from offstage.
Oh, that bridge. Okay.
Yeah, so the one that's close between Everest and Nemo show.
Oh, okay, so that's where they exit then. Okay, that's a big circle. Makes sense.
Yeah. And then later in the day, I heard a drumming. I don't know if it was drummers with Pocahontas or it was just drummers.
It's hard to tell. It's hard to identify the music that goes with each character yet. Like in the Magic Kingdom, it was pretty easy to figure out who was who from the voices, but I haven't figured that out here.
But I think Magic Kingdom works better just because it's really in your face. I think it's probably easy to miss them at Animal Kingdom.
It's a good point because in most places in the park, you're above the river and there's foliage that blocks your view of the river. But I will say if you're on the walkway anywhere between Asia and Africa, or if you're on the bridges on Discovery Island, it's pretty easy to see them. Yeah, but that's a good point. They could be a little bit more visible. Maybe they need like a pre-parade boat to come out.
Yeah, and I know they don't want to give times when they're doing it.
Yeah.
And I guess one thing they were doing at Magic Kingdom that I didn't see at Animal Kingdom, they had places where characters came out and were like on roofs that were on the stage.
Right, and I didn't see that in the Animal Kingdom.
No.
Right. But again, there's a lot of foliage and stuff like that open. Let me ask you this question: did you go into any shops?
One outside of Dinosaur, I went through and got a drink there.
Okay. At the end of Dinosaur? Like
yeah.
As you're walking into Dinoland? Okay. So that one was open. I forget the name of that, but that's the one that's in Dinoland proper, where you come out and you're right in front of Primeval Whirl, which, by the way, not operating again. And then also in Harambe Market, the stores in Harambe were open. I did notice, though, that on Discovery Island, the shops that are closest to Pandora, though, on the walkway, those were closed.
Because everybody uses that as a cut-through
Exactly. Yeah. So don't do that. Yeah. All the shops that are normally cut-throughs were closed. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, actually, this Harambe Market might have been open, but the candy shop or pastry shop that's in Harambe was closed.
It was, yeah. Tusker House was closed. Dawa Bar was closed, which was a shame. I think Tiffin's was open though.
Yes, I saw people.
Tiffin's was opened, and and Tambu Lounge, Nomad Lounge, sorry, I think was open because I saw people in the line.
The Pandora restaurant was open.
Yeah, Central Canteen. Did you use any of the relaxation stations?
I did not.
I did the one in Pizzafari, and it was great because you can bring food in there as well. So we did that right after Central Canteen. We were doing our sort of like afternoon break just to see what it was like, and it's air conditioned. Wide spaces between tables, obviously. The one thing that was a little strange was that Pizzafari has bathrooms, but the relaxation station was in Pizzafari. Pizzafari wasn't running, and the bathrooms weren't open, and that's the part I couldn't figure out. So yeah, other than that, it was very nice. It was a nice little bit of air conditioning.
Are there any difference between the relaxation areas in Animal Kingdom compared to Magic Kingdom?
So yeah, that's a good point. So the one in Animal Kingdom and Pizzafari is indoors and air conditioned, and there were no indoor air conditioned places in the Magic Kingdom. The closest we came was Tomorrowland Terrace, which is air conditioned but outdoors. And there was another one? There's got to be another relaxation station somewhere in Animal Kingdom. Did you happen to see where it was?
I did not see it, but I was thinking that the theaters would be great big places they could air condition and have social distancing.
Yeah, my guess is there's probably one. I mean, just geographically, if there's one over here in Discovery Island, there should be one in Asia somewhere. We'll have to go back and check. So there's probably another one somewhere in the park too. Cool, good. Guy, any other questions?
None that I don't think we can answer. So yeah, if you guys want to continue on or end this, or.
I think in summary, I think the weekend went really, really well. I felt safe the entire time I was in the park. Tomorrow we're gonna have people in Hollywood Studios, and then I might go to the studios on Tuesday too, just to see what's going on. But then Wednesday we start our official coverage of Flower and Wine. And then Steve, when do you leave?
I leave on Thursday.
What are you doing Wednesday?
Studios.
Okay. So and what are you doing Tuesday?
I don't have a park reservation. I can't do anything.
Okay.
So I might go to Volcano Bay, actually. That's what my son wants to do.
Oh, there you go. That might be fun.
Hey, Len, just to be clear,
cool.
which touring plan did you use when you were in the park today?
I used the standard unofficial guide one-day touring plan for adults. So the only thing that I didn't do, was Wildlife Express train to Rafiki's Planet Watch because it's not very highly rated. It's actually not on the touring plan anymore. And I didn't do Triceratops Spin, which was running, but I mean, it's Dumbo with dinosaurs, so I didn't do that. Other than that, every single thing that was in the park we did. Oh, by the way, the games, the carnival games in Dinoland were not running as you would expect during this time.
Did you do the Wilderness Explorers?
I did. So here's a tip. We have that in the touring plan as something to do. You should really pick up your Wilderness Explorers guide as you're coming in to the park, because there are stickers that you can earn on, like, coming off of Kilimanjaro safaris that you don't want to have to rewrite again to get the badge. So that's something that we'll update in the touring plan to include, to do it first, or to put instructions to pick up the book first.
But all the kind of hands-on stuff, was there any modifications to that?
There were no hands-on things. And stickers, the big thing with the Wilderness Explorers is you do the activity and then they give you a sticker. So obviously, to prevent people from touching fingers or hands or whatever, the stickers are placed out in front of you and you just pick one up now. So that's the only big difference on it. But looked like there were definitely people playing it. I definitely enjoyed, watching it. I think that's a great component of the park because you learn more about the animals. And by the way, did you you went on the Maharaja Jungle Trek and the Gorilla Falls Exploration Trail, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk briefly about how those things changed, and then we'll end the show. So on the Gorilla Falls Exploration Trail, there was any enclosed area. Anytime you walked into a small room with the animals, that is now sectioned off. So like the exhibit room with the naked mole rat and the other small animals, that's closed. Then that's just a walkthrough. Also, anything that you would touch is different. So remember, when you're going into and out of the aviaries in Maharaja Jungle Trek, they used to have these like plastic chains that hung down to prevent the birds from flying in. You don't touch those chains anymore. They've been lifted all the way up. So you just walk out a door now.
So the birds can escape now.
Yeah, exactly. But there were plenty of birds, not many people. That was really good. Other than that, it was pretty much the same. I can't believe how much the baby gorillas have grown up. Like Grace is way bigger than she used to be. Yeah, and that was good to see. Also, there were plenty of hippos out in the pools. There are places in the exploration trails where you can walk up against the glass and see them. That was really, really interesting. So the animals were pretty active as well. So that was good.
Yeah, since I think riding the safari in the morning is good because they're getting all the animals out, and the one way they get animals out is they put food out everywhere.
Yeah.
So they're all eating in the morning. It was funny. The lion did a little roaring thing.
Oh, really?
And the driver was saying, they're nocturnal, and he basically did this little act for a minute, and then he plopped down and was like, "I'm done for the day."
And done. Thank you all for coming. Try the veal. Yeah. That's great. We had something where they were feeding the monkeys. You know how over by Kali River Rapids they have that giant island, Monkey Island, with the monkeys on it, and the monkeys were playing on the rope bridges, and they were yelling, and I think they were yelling like to the pattern of the music. I swear to God, I have video of this. But they were screaming to the beat of the music, and it was really interesting to watch. I'd never heard them be that loud before, but it was great to see. So maybe they were just getting used to people coming back too.
Yeah.
It was good, but overall, it's a good day, right?
Yeah. I mean, I totally got everything in I would want to do.
Yeah.
I got to do it multiple times, anything I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I got a break.
Any break. Yeah, again, I would feel comfortable with even more people in the park. This wasn't bad at all. So can't wait to see what they do at Studios and at Epcot. I'm especially interested in seeing how they handle food and wine at Epcot. So we'll see that on Wednesday.
The please stand here lines on the ground are going to be a mess at Epcot with all those booths. You're not going to know what line you're standing in.
I am sure that they're practicing that this week. So folks, when you we'll try and get previews of that, and then we'll do another one of these shows after we have a chance to experience it. Guy, any last questions before we go? All right, folks. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you on later in the week. Don't forget to subscribe and like the channel below. And Guy, thanks for setting this up. I really appreciate it.